100%. Okay, we are good to go. Perfect.
Amazing.
Yes.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live. My name is Melissa Unsell-Smith, and I'm here with the amazing, incredible Amy Capello. Amy,
Hello.
how are you today?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and I cannot wait to just dive into our topic today. Everyone, we're going to be talking about breaking the burnout, gaining
Mhm.
clarity, and reclaiming priorities. I know Amy and I have talked about this a lot
Yes.
over our first initial meetings, and we thought that we could really kind of have a good riff and talk about this very important topic with our communities. So, who are we? Let me do a brief intro of myself. My name is Melissa. I essentially help overworked female entrepreneurs
Mm.
to push them outside their comfort zone to obtain more clarity and revenue for their business because they're sick and tired of being buried in minutia and deeply crave more freedom without sacrificing wealth. So I help them create quantum leaps, identifying areas where potential is hiding and where they are holding themselves. Bottom line, I help female entrepreneurs 10x their life, their revenue, and their legacy in 1 year while working less, guaranteed. And it's so much fun. I love the work I do, and I love working with the women I get to work with. Amy, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell people about the amazing work you do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I am so grateful that our paths crossed, if I can just start with that,
Totally.
because you are doing some incredible work and helping so many amazing women. And I just think the more supports that we have out there in the world, the better we all are for it. And so I'm just so grateful that our paths crossed. So thank you. And I'm excited to do this with you. So, yes, I own Pure Joy Life Coaching, founded this business about 5 years ago. And I also help women in business who are overwhelmed and burned out, right? So there's so much, so many facets, so many layers to how we need support. I know I was one of these women, which I think is probably why I'm so passionate about helping because I've lived it, I've experienced it, and I know what it feels like, right? So the layer of support that I offer in my business is helping create whatever it is that they need, organizations, systems, supports, boundaries, whatever it is that can help them not forget who they are in all aspects of their lives, right? So I think there is a common misconception that as women, we get to show up either like going all in our businesses or going all in all of the other aspects of our life, whatever that may be. And I loved what you said about working less because I think we can accomplish more in less time and doing less work. And it's not talked about. We feel like it's an all or a nothing. And there is a way for these two things to not be mutually exclusive. And so I help women synthesize those two aspects of who they are so that they don't really have to sacrifice feeling like they're showing up well in either area.
Oh, I love it. And I love,
Yeah.
Amy, that when we first met, there was so much cross-pollination, for lack of better
Yes.
phrase, but what
It's a
Pure
perfect
Life
phrase.
Coaching is offering and what Catalytic Icon, my company, is offering. And
Mhm.
I just think it's so important to talk about, and something that you mentioned in your introduction is
Mhm.
certainly this concept of doing more while working less.
Yes.
And this seems so counterintuitive,
Mhm.
yet
Mhm.
it is so expansive once you experience it.
Right. Exactly.
I would love for you, I would love for you if you have an example
Mhm.
of that or what
Mhm.
that's looked like for you in the past,
Oh, for sure.
because we're talking about burnout today.
Yeah.
And burnout is an opposite energy spectrum when having this expansiveness and clarity in working
Mhm.
less. So,
Mhm.
if we can talk about the working less and experiencing more, and then
Absolutely.
also talk about What are some signs and symptoms of burnout, and have an example for yourself of how you can
Yeah.
work less to achieve more?
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. I'll try to remember to hit on all of those. So, when we talk about how we can do more in less time or how we can be more productive, right? What's so funny is I would love to just park on this for just a second.
Sure.
There's a misconception that comes along with this, right? And it took me working with clients for a while and hearing the same things over and over again before I really keyed into this. So, no matter what, if people walk away with this, it's going to be a complete mindset shift and a big help. So, if I were to say to people, okay, you can do more in less time, or you can be more productive by doing less, I mean, the response is overwhelming. They're going to lean in and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, tell me more. Like, let me get my paper, let me start writing it down, right? And there's
Yes.
just this excitement because they think they're going to be told how they can cram more in, right? Oh my gosh, I can now do 15 things where before it was going to be 10. Tell me more, because that's where we put our identity in success. Right. And in achievement. This is what it means to be successful. This is what it means to reach achievement. This is where I know I'm golden. And unfortunately, but also fortunately, the real answer is in letting go. You use the word expansive, like
Mhm.
expanding your world, expanding what success means to you, expanding your resources and how you approach success from maybe a different angle that you didn't even consider before, right? So that may mean I'm hiring an assistant. And the first knee jerk reaction that I see in so many female entrepreneurs, especially that are in the first beginning stages of their business, are no. And it's no because I have to let go and I want it because I do it best. So I want to control it. And it's also no because if I hire help, that means I wasn't doing something right. And therefore I'm a failure. And navigating all of the things that go along with that, right? It took me a while to get to the point that I had to accept that I needed an assistant. But what was so funny is when I leaned into that energy, I put the job announcement out there and I'm going to hire an assistant. No joke. I ran through interviews and I hired three. I was not intending to do that. And I was like, oh, yeah, we're going to have you do this. You're going to be the expert at this and you're going to take that off my plate. Thank you. Right. I appreciate it. And it was wonderful to be able to delegate those things out and to really have that be different, right? So
Yeah.
doing more in less time means that either you are delegating it out or you're just letting it go and saying, this is not something that brings me money. This is not income earning activities. We're done with that. It's
Yeah.
like it felt good. I felt like I should, but we're done, right? So,
Yeah.
whatever those things may mean to make it so that you are working less and achieving more, right? So that's kind of the first part. Now, in the burnout component here, I get asked about the signs of burnout all the time. And I have a love hate relationship with that question. And here's why. I have a love hate relationship because I can't answer that question. So I hate it. But the reason I love it is I can't answer it because it's different for every single person.
Right.
So burnout for me is going to look different than burnout for you, which is going to look
Sure.
different from your assistant to your child to your boss to your pet sitter. It looks different for every single one of us. And it can
Yeah.
range from complete shutdown to unhealthy coping strategies to, and I know this one is a little backwards of what you would expect, hyper productivity. and performance.
Right.
And I tend to fall on that end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm tired and I want to shut down, so I'm going to do more and work harder.
Right.
So, my signs of burnout are I'm working 14-hour days and feel like I need to do more, right?
Wow.
And not that as an entrepreneur, you're going to have cycles, right? I talk about
Sure.
balance all the time. Sometimes that's within an hour or a day or a month or a year.
Yeah.
And we have to get away from like having balance being within the hour or the day sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm training one of my VAs right now. We were just meeting earlier today. I'm putting in more hours, but the ROI on that is I'm
Yes.
going to be doing less in the long run, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm also building resources that I can share with her, and I have forever, you know.
Yeah.
So it's worth that investment. But if I were to sit here and go, I can't shut off, I need to keep going, that's my sign of burnout.
Amazing. Well, thank you for
Yeah,
sharing. That's very illuminating. And
absolutely. Yeah.
I can see why you don't like that question because it
Mm,
is going to be very personal for everyone on how their
absolutely.
burnout is. I think for me, I've been over my entrepreneurial journey, I've owned
Yeah.
two technology companies, and
Right.
that is an industry and space
Yeah.
where burnout is very prevalent just
Yeah.
based on the ecosystem of that environment. So
That's
for
right.
me, what I've experienced in the past, it's almost as if I enter this gray cloud and I have
Mm,
brain fog. I'm not clear on my
yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
I don't have clarity. I also
Yeah.
have a lot of tension in my gut. So
Yeah.
it's almost like brain fog, gut
Yeah.
tension,
Yeah.
and just this innate sense of not having
Mm,
enough clarity to make decisions. And that's when
yeah.
I know I need to
Yeah.
reboot
Right.
my central nervous system and
Yes.
recalibrate and keep going. But I think one of the things that in hearing what you're saying
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that we have philosophies that intersect, I
Mm-hmm.
think for people listening, just to kind of understand the concept that when you're doing everything and you are engaged in the minutia of your
Mm-hmm.
business,
Mm-hmm.
you're more focused on effort
Yeah.
and not transformation,
That's right.
right? And
That's
if
right.
you want to make quantum leaps and you want transformation, you have to take yourself out of that minutia.
That's
And then
right.
you can get into all of the topics of like working in your zone of genius and all of that, which
Right.
we're not going to get into today.
Yeah.
But there is
Yeah.
a component of you need to be serving your business in your best strategic capacity
That's right.
if you want to make big leaps in building your business.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to give up the minutia.
Yeah.
You will have to hire a team if it's a
Yeah.
VA or assistant. And people
Yeah.
shouldn't think of that as an expense. They should think of it as an
Mm-hmm.
investment.
An
And
investment.
look
I
at
agree.
you, you hired three.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I want to talk about then that kind of puts me in this space of talking about building boundaries
Mm,
around
hmm.
ourselves and our schedules to
Yeah.
protect ourselves from
Right.
not being ingrained in the minutia. So
Right.
can you talk
Right.
about that a little bit too, about creating
Yeah.
boundaries so that you can
Yes.
win in business?
Absolutely, absolutely. So
So,
there is it's very hard to talk about burnout without talking about boundaries. I feel like
sure.
those two go hand in hand. And it's funny that you talk about being in an industry that really kind of praises overworking, right? So I just did two keynotes virtually for a global CPA firm, right? And we talked about burnout and boundaries because that was really what we could hone in on, right?
Yeah.
And also working a lot and doing a lot of hours are very common in the CPA business, right? In the accounting business. And we talked about this concept that I had never heard before starting my business and really delving deeply into burnout. And there's a term called karoshi. Have you ever heard this term before? Have you ever?
Hiroshi.
Karoshi, yeah. So it originated in Japan and it is, and you can look up the data, it's fascinating. It is this concept that is now recognized by the World Health Organization, where people are literally dying from overworking,
Oh my.
like actual death. And it's manifesting in different ways. So I
Yeah.
believe, don't hold me to, I think it was 2021 was the most recent year that they released the data from the World Health Organization of an estimated 750,000 deaths worldwide that were
Wow.
attributed to karoshi. But it's disorders, I'm sorry, heart disorders, immune disorders, all of these things that are kind of like underreported. And you might say, well, they died of a heart attack, but are you really,
Tracing
linking
it.
that to the burnout that they were experiencing in work, right? And some of these obviously are going to be business owners, some employees. But it was fascinating to start learning about how this really impacts us, right? And so the quickest way to get to kind of banishing that burnout is to start having those boundaries, right? So when I think about my clients and your clients and the people that we serve the most, we're the business owners. And so it's a double-edged sword. We get to create our hours and also feel like we should never shut down, never take a day off, and we should always be available, right? So
Exactly.
it's hard to say what are those boundaries. But we also have the freedom to decide what those boundaries
Mhm.
are.
Right.
We get to call the shots. We own the business. I've had clients, I did a consultation right when I started my business 5 years ago, where this gentleman in New York, he was like, okay, I want to hire you. But before I do, sorry, I can't say this without laughing. God bless you if you're watching this live. I don't mean this against you in any way. I don't even remember what his name was. So, but he said, I just want to make sure that we're clear. I do have 24/7 access to you, right? Like, even at the start of my business, I was like, oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, this screams unhealthy, like from the
Yes.
get-go, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't take him on as a client. I said that
Yeah.
this is not going to be a good fit for us. There
Yeah.
may be someone, a coach out there for you.
Yeah.
It is not me, my love. Like, it is not me. And I got to call those shots and decide that that
Yes.
client was not a best fit for my business or for my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So having those boundaries, one thing that is very counterintuitive that I think would be a beautiful takeaway for today is when you think about your boundaries, I want you to think about filling your cup.
Mhm.
So when we work in our genius zone, you're thinking about things that light you up. The reason you got into this business, the things you love, the things you're good at, the things that excite you, this new idea that you have that's going to be great, or going down a rabbit hole researching about data on burnout. Like, I love that stuff. Like, let me set aside 2 hours for that because I'm going to find some
Yeah.
fascinating things. That's the kind of stuff, right? So, what boundaries do I need that help me fill my cup? Right. So if I'm an introvert, if I'm an extrovert, my boundaries may be I'm going to limit one on one client time to make sure I can go to in person networking events because it fills my cup. That's a boundary that would serve me well in my business, right?
Yeah.
It helps me banish burnout because I'm going to get burned out doing too many client calls and not enough fun mingling in person. That sounds like my own personal version of hell. Like, I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. I want to be working one on one with clients and limiting my networking because I have to really psych myself up for that.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to create boundaries around how I network strategically that I can get the most bang for my buck with my time
Yeah.
so that I can have even more time for my clients because that's where I get my cup filled, right? And there's
Yeah.
no right or wrong, but what do those boundaries look like that help energize you, right? Little
Absolutely.
counterintuitive, but it's a good one.
Yeah, because when you feel energized and invest in yourself, and that's also an opportunity to reconnect with your version of joy. And when
Yes.
you do that, you're going to show up when you actually are ready to perform your work and
Yeah.
work with your clients. You're going to
Exactly.
show up as an amazing human being, not
Exactly.
tired, crazy human being. They can't
Yes,
think or do anything to
yes,
themselves. One
exactly.
of the things that I started doing in 2018, actually,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, I used to do this like once a year for a few days.
Hmm.
Now I do it twice a year for five
Okay.
nights, 6 days, but I go
Okay.
on my solitude retreat.
I love
And
you.
I'm
I
an
knew I loved
introvert.
you already.
Well, I'm an introvert too. So like
Yes,
I like being alone and
me too.
solitude. If you're an extrovert, you may sound like that's a nightmare.
Yes.
But for me, I'm actually going in 2 weeks, in later in September, and I do 5 nights, 6 days, twice a
Mhm.
year.
I love it.
Kind of pick the cadence of when I need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I always, even though, yes, I get apprehensive because as a human being, you're going to get
Yeah.
apprehensive
Yeah.
staying in a place by yourself.
Hmm.
I don't allow myself any interactions with people, and I do a digital detox as well. So I just have books and notebooks and journals. And so that
Yeah.
could be a little
Hmm.
nerve-wracking.
Hmm. Yeah.
But once I'm like a day in, it's amazing how expansive time feels, and it's
Yeah.
amazing how much clarity and just
Hmm.
opening this aperture of awareness
Yeah.
for stuff in my personal life and in my business life.
Yeah.
And I think just that is now, because I've been doing it so much, if I don't do it, I notice a
Right.
difference.
Yeah.
And the difference is I don't have the time to think expansively,
Hmm.
if I'm just going about my day and my
Hmm.
routine. But when I
Yeah.
have those moments, I can think way expansively.
Right.
And it's great. Bill Gates did it. He called it his think weeks for Microsoft. But I think there's something to that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. So if anyone wants to go on a solitude retreat, just
I
let me know how to
know.
design it.
Right. I completely agree
Yeah.
with you. And if you look at a lot of people that are in industries that require either a big service to their clients or a large amount of creative thinking, innovative thinking, they all do this. It is, yeah. So I talked about my own personal version of hell. This is my own personal version of heaven. I could absolutely do this once a month, honestly. My husband, he's a Leo. He does not understand. It took some adjusting. He's like, "Are you mad at me?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. In fact, I will come back a better wife. Like,
Yeah.
just let me go."
Yeah.
And I do as a mom have to be a little more like intentional about when I can go, especially
Yeah.
because I am divorced from my son's father. So we have a co-parenting situation,
Yeah.
which is a blessing and a curse, right? But it also, when my son is away, allows me that time that's just kind of built in. But it does mean I'm kind of trapped to that time.
Right.
And I don't have quite as much flexibility around it. But just being able to go away in solitude, and having that time to just kind of decompress, allow that capacity of your brain to step away, to think clearly, to allow, like, I don't have tasks to do. I can just let whatever beautiful things come into my brain come in, without a time constraint or a meeting, constraint. There's so much beauty in that. I love that you do that. You've inspired me to push it to twice a year. I'm going to see if I can do that.
Do it twice a year. It's so good. It's so
Yes.
good. So it's so good. I know we only have a few minutes left. There's one
Yeah,
thing I
yeah.
want to talk about that's kind of in line with
Hmm.
with the boundary concept,
Yeah.
with this idea of reclaiming your priority. And you
Hmm.
mentioned
Hmm.
something earlier that I also share and tell my clients
Yeah, yeah.
is, are your actions that you're doing for your business related to revenue?
Right.
Now, we own businesses and we become entrepreneurs for multiple freedoms,
Of
but one
course.
of those freedoms is financial
Of
freedom.
course.
So, are you doing things that are in line with generating revenue? And then your team is doing all the minutia, right?
Right,
So,
right.
can we talk about like looking at priorities? I know it's
Hmm.
going to be
Hmm.
different from everyone,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
from your lens, how do you look at priorities to
Hmm.
help you know what you need to be working on, which then can help you kind of prescribe this
Right.
these boundaries that you need to create for yourself?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I do switch it up. Sometimes even day to day. So one kind of bird's eye view strategy that I love to take that applies to a lot of areas of my life is having structure with built-in flexibility. I am the one who plans. Like, people love to travel with me because I'm going to send you 16 emails with updated itineraries and links and everything. Like, that's me. I am not a fly by the seat person. However, the day we leave to get on the plane, whatever happens,
Right.
happens. I'm going with the flow.
Yeah.
So, I do have both sides of that for me. So I will strategize a day based on, whatever feels important at the time, with the ability to also show up and say, I had a really rough night. I only got 30 minutes of sleep last night because my husband was snoring. That actually happened last week. So that's fresh on my brain. Um, and I needed to give myself the grace to do less that day, right? So my
Yeah.
priorities changed when I started my day, right?
Right.
So I try to make sure that my priorities are things that are going to fill my cup so I can create boundaries around them, but also as the founder, owner, and head of my company, my job is to keep my company open, right? I am providing an income for others, I am serving my clients, and I am doing that best when the doors stay open. So I do have to think as a business owner, what is keeping our doors open? Where do my energies need to go?
Yeah.
With that, though, I will say there are parts of that income earning that I don't like. And it took me a little while to realize the things I would put off. So it's not that I'm not capable. It's not that I'm not good at it. It's not that I don't even have a part of it that I may be okay with, but as a whole, I don't enjoy it. Train my assistant. You're going to take it from me. You're going to do part A. I'm going to pick up part B because I'm good at that. And I will never turn that part down, but I'm never going to get there if I'm not doing part A. So I actually will even prioritize training her to do that so that I can get here because part B is going to lead to C, D, and E to keep our doors open, keep income coming in, and keep Pure Joy thriving, right? So, what things in my day are going to make me feel energized, excited, loving my business, and what is going to keep the doors open as well, and what parts of that do I need to delegate out?
I love it. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that. Yeah, I
absolutely.
absolutely love that. And I think we all have kind of a balance
Hmm.
with those priorities. And I love your example of itinerary planning and then getting on the plane and just let be what be. And so you do
Yes.
have to do that. You know, you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
kind of your plan of action, but then
yes,
on a daily basis, you just have to assess where you are and what you can do. And I think that's
exactly.
amazing. And I think the most important thing is just having the awareness
Hmm.
that yes, we currently live in a world where there are tons of distractions, right?
Yep,
There
yep.
are a gazillion, quadrillion things out there to distract you from
Yes,
doing the things that you need to be doing for yourself. So just
yes.
remember to hit the pause button and invest in yourself and let those
Hmm.
distractions just go away.
Exactly,
I think that's so
exactly.
important because
Yeah,
it just is what it is. But
yep,
this has been an amazing, inspiring conversation. I love that
yeah,
we have like so much shared philosophies on this. I loved hearing
mhm,
your specific stories and examples. So
yeah.
thank you for sharing.
Of
And it's been
course. Thank
so
you.
great to just have this
Yes,
conversation. I hope
yes,
that the audience has enjoyed it. Please let us know which one of these things we've talked about today that you're going
yeah,
to put into practice, one or two or
absolutely.
three. I think
Yes.
that'd be amazing to hear from the audience what you're going to do. And if you have stories of burnout that you want to share, also like venting and
Hmm.
sharing that,
Yes,
or if you're in a moment or season of burnout,
yeah,
reach out to Amy or myself
yes,
because we have been there. We
absolutely.
empathize with that and we can help you bring you out of that. And I think that that's what we're here to do, right? We all need to
Yeah,
be living life, leaning into our life and businesses, and just kind of having a little bit of joy and fun. And I
yeah,
definitely had some
yeah.
joy and fun with you today,
Yes,
Amy.
yes,
So it's
thank
been
you so much. And the community as well. I have found that the more that we're willing to be brave and say, I'm feeling burnout right now because I'm doing this,
Mhm.
You have no idea how many people are also saying yes. Every time I do anything, I get private messages so much about these things happening. So, any opportunity that you feel where you can comment or share or just normalize that, build your community for support, whether it's me or Melissa or whomever. And I see that Kelly just commented as well. Kelly, my heart is with you. It is, we are all going through it. It is normal. So don't be embarrassed or ashamed to, build that community and have those conversations and be brave about it because you are not alone. So, yes, thank you so
Absolutely.
much. This has been
Amazing.
wonderful, and we will continue to share, post, and comment on all of that, and we'll engage with you and help you out with it. Thank you guys so much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye. All right. Let me stop the recording just